Alright guys, welcome back to another Madden 19 deep dive breakdown, and if you just so happen to be unaware, yesterday was another information release day for Madden 19, which came in the form of a stream by Mills, aka MillsGamingTV, and then the more traditional deep dive blog, both of which covered presentation and both of which will be linked in the description. Now there's definitely some good stuff there, and I'm a big presentation guy, and for those of you that don't know, that's how I originally got into creating Madden mockups, which was by creating score banners and broadcast packages for Madden some years ago. So this is an area of the game that I'm always interested in and hoping to see good things come out of. But moving into the blog, we start off with stadium exteriors and points of interest. I really like this, and I hope that they can continue to add a bunch of stuff from around the league. It specifically mentions in the blog the Bills, Bears, Buccaneers, Chiefs, Dolphins, Falcons, Patriots, and Titans as teams with upgraded exteriors. And one of my favorite presentation elements that has ever been in Madden was the exterior blimp cam type stadium shots that you would get in those game intros in Madden 12. So seeing stuff like this and along these lines is always cool to me. As a Chiefs fan, I would imagine that they might have a shot of Kauffman Stadium, which is in the same parking lot as Arrowhead Stadium. And one thing that I think is really cool about this, and that I hope that they do when pushing this forward, is getting more specific areas of cities to go along with the stadium exteriors as well. I remember a thing that used to be super common when I was watching Chiefs games growing up was that coming back from commercial, they'd show the world's largest shuttlecocks. With Seattle, you have things like Pike Place Market and the Space Needle. Los Angeles, you have the Hollywood sign. You have all these little personal elements of cities that you can throw in there to extend that living world feeling. And once it's in there, it doesn't really need to be touched. You don't really have to mess with it. It can just continue to live in there. And also with something like that, you can do stuff like that for the relocation cities as well. So if you relocate to Vegas, you get shots of the Strip. If you relocate back to St. Louis, you get shots of the Arch. So you're really reinforcing that personalization of what city you choose to relocate to, which I believe is a huge part of enhancing that feature. So I definitely like what I see here, and I really hope that they continue to push forward and stay on the same direction with this, because there are really cool things that can be done. Moving on to the 3D broadcast graphics, this is kind of where I get a little frustrated, and frustrated probably isn't the right word to use there, because it doesn't really have anything to do with what's in the blog, because I think that looks great. The 3D logos and the helmets look really nice, and the helmets look just like what you'd see on a Sunday night or a Monday night broadcast in real life. But the problem I always have with this kind of stuff is that they never end up keeping any of it. This isn't the first time they've done separate things for prime time and regular games. You go back to Madden 25, where they had the unique intros with a voiceover for primetime games. In Madden 12, they had stuff like the unique team intros, as well as actual flyovers for playoff games. In Madden 13, you had the studio intros using in-game assets with players, and then you also had the in-game versions of Phil Simms and Jim Nantz as well. And all of those things are really good elements, but they're all also completely gone from the game at this point. And this stuff always looks good, but when you only take the one broadcast approach, no matter how fancy it ends up being, no matter how great it looks, it's inevitable that it's going to become stale. That's just the nature of that kind of thing. And when it gets stale, what are you going to do? You're going to completely overhaul it. And when you do that and you leave everything that you did the previous year behind, I don't want to call it a waste, but you're not really making progress by doing that. Whereas if you're throwing this year on top of last year's, and you do that for several years, and you continue to build on this to the point to where when you boot up a game, maybe this time you're getting a digital Brandon Gaudin and Charles Davis, and then maybe next time you're getting a national anthem, and then another time you get an authentic team intro, it becomes a heck of a lot harder for things to become stale. And then ideally you shouldn't have to do as much each year, because you're not tearing everything from the ground up and having to rebuild it. Now logistically, I don't know how much of that is actually possible, but I feel like with as much that has been done and how much can change on a year-to-year basis, there has to be more range of freedom there. Now it does say in the second paragraph that everything is real-time content, and they'll be able to modify the look for years to come, and that it also opens the door for more complex visuals in the future. And obviously, given what I just went on about, that's music to my ears, but I know better by now. You go back and you read some of the early blogs about the possibilities of things like connected careers mode and target passing, and you know that you can't always believe what you read. but this is definitely a good first step. But at this point, it's definitely show me, don't tell me. Moving on to probably the biggest addition presentation wise comes with the pregame and halftime flows, more specifically the halftime flows. But as far as the pregame goes, it says that they've created a pregame flow to get you ready for the game with 3D visuals and high energy music before hitting the stadium. I'm not really sure what to expect here because it doesn't really give us anything outside of that, so it'll be interesting to see what's changed from just being the stats breakdown or the matchup breakdown of Madden 18 to what's in store for Madden 19. But then moving to the halftime stuff, I really like this. A lot of this actually looks like some of the stuff that I've mocked up before, but it also seems very similar to the stuff NCAA was doing, which is great. Showing a few scores with stats and then showing the whole league is just about perfect in my opinion. And the only thing I really worry about here or with this whole thing is pacing. It needs to be quick because if it's cumbersome, it makes it more prone to becoming a routine skip type thing, which is what has been the case with the current halftime show, at least for me. But the biggest key with this kind of thing is that it flows well so you don't get that, and here's the score in Tennessee, long pause, and then let's take a look over in Jacksonville, and then long pause. And the same goes for the highlights. I don't need to see a 10-yard pass in the middle of the first quarter and just largely irrelevant plays. Keep it quick, make sure it flows well, it's well paced, and just feed me information and relevant stuff and then shoot me back into the game. Next up is the replay camera views, where it says they added 2 new cameras, and this is another one of those things that I'm kind of nitpicky on. For example, I hate that post play on the field XFL style camera that they go to. This is another area where I thought Madden 12 had it just about perfect. They had a ton of authentic stadium cam views, and I love that. But I like the stuff like the pylon cam, but I've always disliked the beyond the broadcast approach that they've been taking. And so when I read things like it enables us to showcase player authenticity and animations like what you see in Hollywood action films, that's just literal barf emoji for me. But that's just me though. As much as I dislike the sound of that, is as giddy as I would be if they brought back the TV style field goal cam. So it's really to each their own there. The overhead cam sounds a bit along similar lines, but almost also kind of like what the sky cam or the spider cam provides, so it'll be interesting to see that in action. And then lastly, we get to the commentary callback stories, and commentary has been one of those things that since Godden and Davis became the guys, I've been drastically mixed on. Madden 17 became the first Madden ever where I completely muted the commentary. I don't know what it was, but I just couldn't stand it, and I think they made a huge mistake that first year in using the live commentary updates to put in real life stories. And the reason behind that is just the fact that you spend all that time putting in that kind of stuff that is just completely unusable for Madden 18. That being said, in Madden 18 they built the commentary around CFM, and that's the absolute smartest move I think they could possibly make with commentary, and I think it really showed in Madden 18, and I actually really enjoyed the commentary. It definitely has areas it needs to improve on, as there is still some repetitiveness and long-winded answers, but overall it was good, and so I expect this to be pretty good as well. The only thing I worry about is context and repetitiveness. I don't want to hear about my 1,000-yard rusher every single drive or hear the same callbacks every other game, and then context is pretty self-explanatory. Cool beans if my 1,000-yard rusher is averaging 8 yards per carry in a game, but if I'm losing by 30, then that really isn't relevant. So those are the only 2 things I'll be watching out for, but overall I'm expecting more good things out of commentary, as it's probably been the most improved aspect of presentation over the last couple years in my opinion. But that covers everything from the blog. This might be the last one of these videos for Madden 19 that I do. Next up in the playbook is graphics, and then after that is ratings. So if you guys would like to see me do more breakdowns and impressions on those, let me know and I'll go over those things as well. But let me know what you think of the presentation editions, what you liked most, what you didn't like, and what you still want to see. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I appreciate you tuning in, and until next time, thanks for watching.